In the previous lesson, we saw how we can model using part design and using the sketcher workbenches. And we created this really simple plate, switch plate model. And we can double click here, get inside and change this anytime. And we use the constraints. So this is a specific way to design in part design, which is closer to like industrial design and things like that. So when you draw dimension here is it's not just like we are putting some annotation. This is actually constraining our design, our drawing. So it's pretty different from draft. So if your plan is to just express something, present something, and you don't need to actually have constraints or things like that, you can use draft. It's a free or more free workbench than Sketcher. And also, if you need to do just 3D modeling, and you can use part. But if you want some more like precision and more constraints and things like that, you will use part design. So that's the main difference between the two. So when we close here the design in the sketch in the 2D world, well, all those measures are going to disappear. Now, before we proceed, I want to add here some refinements to this model. So what I can do here is in the part design, I'm going to do some addition here of fillet. And you can see this is going to be applied to the whole object. And or I can just select a face. In this case, I've selected the front face. So depending on what you select here, you're going to apply something like a measure or a modifier like this, put some fillets. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Well, not too small. So this is going to be 0,02 centimeters, meaning that it's going to be 2 millimeters. And I think it's fine for a plate like this, but I can always change my mind and change this right here. And so you can see here, I can continue to select more faces or edges, etc., etc. So I'm going to say OK. And you can see now that I have these fillets all around. Now, if you don't want to use centimeters because they are too big for what you're designing, you can always come down here and change these to millimeters like this. So, and you can always, in parametric design, you can always go back. So I can go back to the extrusion here and change the initial path extrusion that we did in the previous video. So for example, I can change this from like let's make this like 1. Okay, so it's getting smaller. And then I can also go back to the sketch, or I can go back to the fillet. So I can change my mind anytime, and I can apply here an additional fillet or something else. So that's the beauty of parametric design. You can always go back and forward. There's no like non-reversible operation, or almost. So if I want to put some measures, I can go up here. So this is the measure tool. And by the way, also I want to show you some selection filters. If you go here, you can, for example, put the vertex selection. This is going to limit the selection that you can do only to the points or the vertices. Or you can do edge selection, so you can only select edges in this case. And you can also do multiple selection. If you hold the control key, you can select more. If you go again over, it's going to deselect. So you can constrain the selection and then face selection. So I'm only selecting the face. Or if you want to remove all the selections, you can go here. Okay, so if I want to measure something, I can click, for example, on this edge. And if I want to see the measures right here, the annotation, I can use the measure tool, which is another handy utility that completes the toolbar right here. I think we saw all of this during the course. Okay, so now you can see this is 41,341 millimeters. Now the precision of this, the decimal, the units and everything, you can set this in the preferences if you remember. So you can see here the result, and the mode is usually it's automatic, but this time it just recognized this is a line, so it went automatically to the length. So let's save this. You can close without saving, or you can save it. If you save it, let me show you. If you go here in the hierarchy, you can see that you're gonna have an extra folder, and you're gonna see here the length, so you can turn this on and off anytime, the whole group or just the specific annotation. Now let's see what happens if I select, for example, this circle here, and again I go to measure. You can see automatically the text that this is something like an arc or a circle, and it gives me this other measure, which is the radius. You can see it right here, and I can also save this. Now if you want, you can calculate also the area of an object like this. You can see if I move around here, based on the selection I do, a measure is going to appear. So let's say I want to save also the area of this front part of my object. Now I have all these three measures. So this is a way different from the draft to keep some measures on while we're working here in the project. For the rest, we can see them when we are in the sketch mode. So in the sketch mode, we see the measures, which are actually constraints, but we can also turn these into measures. But they're only going to be visible while we are sketching. So to continue in this lesson, I want to put this now aside a little bit. So I'm just going to select everything and just going to move them aside using the placement. So right click, placement, and I'm going to say, okay, I want these like 40 millimeters aside, or 80, maybe better. Or if you're using centimeters, you can put like 8 centimeters. Because I want to work in the origin, it's always suggested to work in origin. So I'm going to go to view and toggle the axis so we can see the origin is right there. So that's where I'm going to work for the next model I'm going to create. And that's going to be specific to show you a little bit of constraints and how they work. So I'm going to go in the, well, I'm going to create a new body first because I don't want this to be on the same body. And then here, I'm going to create a new sketch, and I'm going to select the x-epsilon plane and say OK. And now we're back in the sketch interface. I don't want to use the grid like I did previously, nor the snaps. I just want to go for sketching and then using the constraints, which are a way to snap or work more precisely and be sure that your shape is well constructed. So I'm gonna use the polyline and create like a random polyline, which is gonna eventually become a square. So I'm gonna close this like this. You don't have a close button or anything, just click, and there you go. Now when you do this, it usually sets up some constraints. Now the only constraints that we see here are to the points. So it created like 4 points and then the line between them. So we can consider these to be vertices and vectors, like in vector graphics. And here we can select both vertices or one vertex in here, or the whole line, etc., etc. So also, if you go here, you can decide if you want to have auto constraint on and auto remove redundance. I'm going to uncheck the auto constraints because we're going to do this manually in this video. We're going to put some constraints manually to understand better. Now, if you press escape or exit or the ESC key on the top left or your keyboard, you're going to exit the sketch. But let me just go back, double click. So if you press it one time, you're going to exit the command. If you press it 2 times, you're going to exit the sketch. So I want to exit the command and not the sketch. So now I am outside the polyline command and I can do something else. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start to use some constraints. Now there are different types of constraints. The first one on the left, this is the bar. By the way, you can also like move this aside a little bit so you can see better. So we're going to concentrate on this